President Trump demands unflinching loyalty from Republicans. Otherwise, it is viewed as an act of betrayal. And now the Republican who has become perhaps the most disloyal is about to endure MAGA wrath. That's Congressman Thomas Massie, who has led the charge to release the Jeffrey Epstein files in defiance of the president. New this morning, brand new reporting with my colleague Sarah Ferris about how Trump has met with the prospective Massie primary foe as a Trump-aligned group plans to spend millions to defeat him. And Speaker Johnson and GOP leaders don't plan to stand Trump's way.
Mr. Speaker, do you think that Thomas Massie deserves to be reelected?
Thomas Massie has to make that decision himself. I mean, he is actively working against his team almost daily now, and seems to enjoy that role. So he is, deciding his own fate. My way is to reach out an olive branch to everybody and try to be a peacemaker, and some people make that very difficult for me.
My panel's back. I mean, typically, a leader defends the person in their conference because they're a member of their conference.
Yeah.
This situation is different, and Johnson is very clear where he stands.
Yeah, absolutely. GOP leaders are just going to let him hang himself here. He's such a pain in the side for them that they wouldn't mind if he's gone, and it would be a red district regardless. But look, this whole thing it's a case study in whether a Trump antagonist in Congress can survive. And I mean, Manu, we've covered the Hill for a long time during the Trump era. The answer to that question has always been no. I mean, think Liz Cheney, Jeff Flake, Bob Good.
Bob Good, yep.
History just sort of strewn with the bodies of, political folks who criticized Trump and then lost, their seats. The difference here is that Massie has such a strong brand in his district as this sort of libertarian, independent thinker. And Trump has gone after him before, saying he should lose a seat in 2020. He won that primary by 60 points. But the difference now is that you have people like Chris LaCivita who are jumping down his throat, helping organize and raise money and come after
Trump
him.
campaign aide.
Yes, and that guy doesn't like to lose, so it's going to be a dogfight.
Yeah, and this is just a taste of what people are seeing in the district. Look at how much money that's already been spent by this Trump-aligned super PAC. $1.6 million by MAGA Kentucky. Massie spending just $418,000, and that is just to defend himself, in a sense. Just to what viewers are seeing back home. Watch.
What happened to Thomas Massie? When did he decide to start voting with the radical Democrats?
I'm sure you've seen the attack ads by now. I'm not folding, I'm fighting, and I'm just getting started.
The message they're trying to send here is that if you stray, like the way Massie did, you're going to see that in your district. That's the message from the Trump team.
Yes.
To anyone who wants to break from him.
Absolutely. And Massie is unique in another way. On foreign policy, on votes around Israel, he has attracted for years the enmity of pro-Israel groups. There was money on the air in Kentucky last cycle. But before any of this happened, a lot of people want to beat him. His message has been, no, I'm with the base. The leadership might change based on what Trump wants, but I'm with you. On the Epstein thing, he is with the base on that. On foreign aid, increasingly with the base. Can he get through that? Because the rest of the ad, that the MAGA PAC ad you were showing, says that because he voted against Trump, he voted for sex surgeries for minors. And it makes him look like a liberal. The bet is that the rest of the Republican base can go along with the party in Congress and say being a true conservative means supporting the leader, not diverging on your own issues.
Yeah, and that's the key point here is Massie is with the base on these issues that leadership is mad at him about. They're the ones who split with the base on Epstein.
On the debt and deficit, he voted against the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And because of the deficit. The base.
We've been saying for years we were going to cut the deficit. That's what MAGA has been saying for years. Yeah. And so, I mean, and there are people like Marjorie Taylor Greene who are with Massie and not necessarily being attacked by Trump. And we can talk about those dynamics being a little bit different. But what they're saying is, hey, we are not afraid. Matter of fact, the threats that came from the White House saying it would be a hostile act to support the discharge petition, they did not like that messaging at all. And to them, I think they think they're on more solid ground. Massie says, hey, come at me. He's kind of saying, come at me. I can stand it. I can withstand it. So it'll be interesting to see, because this is a split in the Republican Party. We talked about the split with the Democrats. This is a clear split in the Republican Party.
Just the more on that split, I talked to Massie about this. He shrugged off the attacks from the president and the speaker as well. But also some folks on the right are not with him in this fight either.
The Speaker's position depends on him rubber stamping, not just rubber stamping, but reinforcing anything Donald Trump wants, even if Donald Trump is wrong. So the Speaker's in a tough spot.
I think that the way that this has kind of flushed out between his personal relationship with the president is unfortunate to see unfold. The moment that you get personal and the moment that you start doing things for reasons other than what you're telling the public, I think that that kind of crosses the Rubicon. There's no turning back from that.
That last comment coming from a conservative congresswoman who supports the effort to release the Epstein files, but is not with Massey to try to force a vote and put this on the floor of the House, and also wouldn't say if she supports his reelection because of this feud with Trump.
Yeah, I mean, he's the black sheep right now. So it's not just people, it's not just Republicans in Washington. The Wall Street Journal had a good story about how Republicans, back home in Kentucky were also distancing themselves from Massey, even though he has that strong local brand. I mean, obviously, they want endorsements from Trump themselves, and the way to do that is to kind of separate yourself from, the person who's sort of the ugly stepchild at the moment. But I just want to go back to one thing we were talking about, which was like the Democratic or the Republican attack ads on him, trying to suggest he's a Democrat. It's not just the policies that he's aligned with the base on. I mean, it really is this sort of local, knowledge people have of him. They know he's a farmer, that he raises chickens, that he has solar panels that, power his home. They like that. They like that he, grows peaches. So, look, that's going to be hard to sort of color and shade for the Trump folks. Yeah, no question about it. In the meantime, they're still short of the votes they need to force a vote on the floor, even with some of those MAGA supporters aligned with Trump, want the release of these files, but are not signing on with Massey.
Right. I think, the
2 votes short, 2 signatures short.
2 signatures short, and if they don't come home and change minds while they're in the district this weekend, I don't think they're going to get those other 2.
Yeah. All right, we'll see what happens.
We begin with President Trump embracing war against America's cities and expanding his federal crackdown while cities fight back. In Chicago, protesters took to the streets to stand up against Trump's threat to deploy the National Guard and ramped up immigration enforcement. While in Washington, D.C., huge crowds protested in opposition to the federal crackdown and National Guard stationed there. It came as ICE began new immigration enforcement operations in Massachusetts, setting up a fight between the Trump administration and Boston. All of this is coming as the president has renewed his threats to Chicago with a post on social media with an AI image writing, "I love the smell of deportations in the morning. Chicago about to find out why it's called the Department of War." Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker responded, quote, "This is not a joke. This is not normal. Illinois won't be intimidated by a wannabe dictator." Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson joined Pritzker in condemning the president's post, saying it was, quote, "beneath the honor of our nation." Illinois Congresswoman Delia Ramirez, who represents part of Chicago, slammed the president's dangerous rhetoric and warned Chicagoans not to take his bait.
The president wants to do everything he possibly can to instill the most fear in communities that are most vulnerable. It's not gangs that Chicagoans are worried about right now. They're worried about the president of the United States of America deploying the very same people that are supposed to protect America against its own people.
Joining us now, former Pennsylvania Congressman Conor Lamb and Christy Greenberg, former federal prosecutor and MSNBC legal analyst. That's a pretty extraordinary Truth Social post that we heard from the president overnight. Representative Lamb, I want to ask you, as a former veteran, what is your response to the president effectively declaring war on an American city and his own citizens?
Well, first, I just have to say it's the complete opposite of anything that anyone learns about leadership when they're in the military. It's just not how you're supposed to be. It also shows he still has no idea why people sign up to serve in the National Guard or the military overall. They want to help their fellow citizens. They want to protect them. They don't want to go to war with them. And Trump clearly has his own agenda here. He's not thinking about what's best for the country.
Christy, what are the legal ramifications? What are the legal tools that these governors and these mayors actually have? D.C. was a little bit different, right? We saw in L.A. the judge saying the president sending the National Guard there was illegal. He's starting, it seems, with immigration in these other cities. But what can these cities actually do? How can these governors and mayors protect their states and cities?
Well, I think that following what Governor Newsom did in California when he sued, and he has a successful opinion now where the judge said that there was an overstep, a great overstep in what the National Guard was doing in California, that they weren't just there to protect federal buildings, federal property in response to, some very specific threat. This was a systemic, effort from the top down at the Defense Department. And the judge said that's overstepping, that you've gone too far. It is illegal to just send in the military to engage in general law enforcement activities. And so I think that decision will now be a model for all of these other governors. I think you're going to see Governor Pritzker sooner than later probably sue this administration in the same way that Governor Newsom did, to say this is too much. You're not coordinating with federal law enforcement. You're not even talking to state and local officials about what it is you're planning to do. What is the
Which you would
threat?
typically do if you were going to team up and fight crime.
Right. If there are actually criminal threats, the best way those work is when you have a task force of federal law enforcement working with state and local officials together to figure out how are we going to address this. And that's not happening. They're not only not talking, they're talking about going to war on a city. And so when you have that kind of rhetoric, I think it tees up the legal fight quite nicely.
Congressman Lamb, I want to go back to you in something that you said, that you didn't think that Trump actually really understood sort of the delineations between the National Guard, ICE, local police, law enforcement. But I wonder if you're not giving him enough credit in terms of the overall plan of what the administration is trying to do here. Many people we've spoken with on the show believe all of this is a pretext to create some sort of paramilitary force for him going into 2026 elections. I mean, what do you think is going on here when you are connecting the dots across all of these deployments and potentially future deployments to blue cities?
No, he's definitely trying to intimidate the public at large, and doing everything he can to try to flex his muscles and his power. I don't really see that working long term with people like the National Guard, because again, it's not why they sign up to serve. I also just think, coming from an area that I represented where people don't live in big cities and where they might watch this on TV and at first be sympathetic to the idea of addressing crime, they're only going to be distracted for so long. I mean, these jobs numbers that we're seeing are a disaster, especially in areas like mine where people still work in manufacturing and mining and gas production and all that kind of thing, all of which are getting crushed. People are going to interpret this for what it is, which is mostly a show that is not doing anything for the very people who gave Trump the last election.
Christy, I want to play some sound from Attorney General Pam Bondi, because she has her eyes set on Boston, sort of. Let's listen.
Michelle Wu is one of the worst offenders in the entire country. She says Boston is safe. It's not. A Haitian national is charged with raping a child at a migrant center. An 18-year-old illegal alien from Haiti molested a 10-year-old child. An illegal from El Salvador. 11 counts of rape against a child. I could go on and on about the crimes in the Boston area. So if she's not going to protect the people of Boston, we are.
Now, Christy, the Daily Beast has a little fact check. The alleged migrant center incident took place 20 miles from Boston. The alleged molestation took place 30 miles outside city limits. And the incident involving the Salvadorian national took place on Nantucket. Now, all of those things are heinous if they're true, right? Alleged crimes, we don't have all the facts there. And, she's sometimes loose with her facts when she's on television. But what does it say that the Attorney General of the United States, one, is even going on television and talking about these things? But two, when she's talking about it, they're not actually in the cities they're saying it. That's when Jackie's talking about this pretext, that's where it's coming from. If they were being serious about finding the crime in these cities, they would probably look for actual crime that was happening in the cities, not in other areas.
Well, that's certainly true. Also, I mean, the first thing, if you really think there's a crime problem in cities, then you want to beef up your FBI. You want to beef up the partnerships with state and local officials. Instead, they are firing veteran law enforcement in the FBI. They are taking the FBI's mission and changing it so that they are not looking at things like national security or cyber, that they are looking at immigration. If you think crime is a real issue, why is the FBI's mission shifting so much to immigration enforcement, which is not typically what they do. There are other agencies that deal with that.
It puts us at risk, it seems, if they're not doing the job that they are trained for and tasked with.
Right. And the military is not trained to engage in law enforcement. Everybody should stay in their lane and find ways to work together. And this is just fear baiting. That it's fear mongering. That's all this is. And when you see that in D.C., when if you are talking about being serious about crime, why is it that D.C. grand jurors are continuing to reject the cases that are brought to them? Because a lot of those are bogus cases. They're overcharged cases that are not set up by evidence and the facts. And you can't charge cases by going on Fox News and doing media appearances. Yeah. You have to present evidence to a grand jury, and they are finding that this kind of rhetoric is empty. When they actually go into a grand jury and try and make a case, they are failing.
We have the governor of Massachusetts on, Maura Healey, later on in the show, so we will definitely ask her about that in her state as well, guys.
And I want to stay, though, on the Pam Bondi sound. I mean, Congressman Lamb, John Fetterman, your former opponent and now the senator from Pennsylvania, is the lone Democratic senator who voted to confirm Pam Bondi. Do you think, I don't want to get too far afield of the actual news here and too deep into the political realm of this, but does John Fetterman have the ability to represent Pennsylvanians effectively?
He hasn't proven to. So, I mean, I had sort of hoped he would get his act together and start doing a better job, but he's not going in that direction. And the Pam Bondi vote, it was obvious at the time that she's not qualified for this job. And every day since then, she's just proven she doesn't want to tell the truth to people about what's going on. I mean, that clip that you just showed, it's disgraceful for the top law enforcement official in our country to be talking like that to the public and misunderstand the priorities. I mean, by that same logic, you have a criminal in the White House. I mean, does that mean that she needs to take action there? It's just crazy. And to reaffirm something Christie has said a couple of times already, you know, her job is to be getting law enforcement to be better at solving serious crimes. And instead, they're focusing on a group of people, immigrants, who commit crimes at a lower rate than other people. They've totally lost direction.
Yeah. Conlon, I want to stick with you, Congressman, because something that it seems some of these mayors and governors are trying to do is preempt Donald Trump when he is going to send folks here. In Maryland, they are deploying more law enforcement to Baltimore amid his threats. The open-ended increase, is from the Washington Post, in public safety efforts announced by Governor Wes Moore and Mayor Brandon Scott builds on an existing partnership that has already funneled cash to violence interrupter groups and state prosecutors, an effort that the two men credit with helping drive Baltimore's homicide count to its lowest in 50 years. All of these mayors, these governors, continue to say it's not about crime. We've had Brandon Scott on here. He said this is not about fighting crime from Donald Trump. But should they do things like this to try and slow down, stop Donald Trump from sending the National Guard or whomever to their cities and states? Is that a way to kind of play the game a little bit with him?
Well, you know, I don't think it's a game so much as we have to remember that ultimately there's a court of public opinion here. Yeah. And we're trying to convince people that Democrats are effective at governing, which means effective at protecting them and their families. And so I think it's great that these leaders want to step up and say, hey, we're the ones that actually know about reducing crime and trying to protect you from it. When Donald Trump sends a bunch of 22-year-old National Guard troops into your city who don't even have the power to arrest anybody, he's putting on a show. He's not protecting you at all.